Good evening. Hello. Tonight, yes, we're going to enter the world of conscience. We might not ever get back, you know, because to be honest, yes, I've lost the thing now. It's over here. I did actually bring the book, just for a laugh. I brought it, just for a laugh. Yes, just in case I need to check it. That's what I wrote. So tonight's going to be a long night. I can't remember it. Anyway, so yes, that's what I tried to write on conscience. I went to Rome to try and find out if I had one, and we're still working on our understanding of conscience. Best thing, actually, there's a handout here which I'm not going to use at all, actually. It's some of you, I don't know, some of you were at St. Peter's and we did a talk and I gave this handout there, okay? So this is a handout of the same thing, okay? It's just a general overview of an introduction to Catholic morals. So it may be of some use. And so it gives a brief overview of some ideas, and some of those key ideas are going to be expanded in Bishop Hugh's talk after this one. So there will be some overlap between Bishop Hugh's talk and some of the things that are in here, but so we'll hand that out if you want it. Okay. However, this is the other one, which is actually on conscience, funnily enough. So I'll give the one there. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to actually, it's not being cheeky, but at the same time, I'm going to actually ask you, first of all, what's your understanding of conscience? What a cheek he's come down here to tell us about, and the first thing he's going to do is ask you. But yes, if somebody said to you, oh, in conscience, I couldn't do that. Or if you turn on the television or the radio and you have Parliament debating something, and they say, this one is going to be a free vote because it's a matter of conscience. And so you hear this word being used all over the place in different situations. But is it meaning the same thing? So what kind of ideas do you associate with conscience?
To me, it suggests sort of the inner struggle or the inner battle that we have ourselves between what we know is sort of humanly right and wrong, almost like an angel and a devil sat on one shoulder, on opposite shoulders, and one's telling you to do something, the other's telling you not to do it, and it's almost that sort of inner struggle with yourself, which voice to listen to, so to do the right thing and to live within sort of the laws of God's teachings as well.
So that's the talk tonight, and there we are. That's it. So yes, because really, actually, the conscience has that idea of interior reflection. You're trying, as you say, to do the right thing. You're trying to choose the right thing. Because there are many things we can do. You can choose many options at certain points. But in fact, as we work through the talk, really where we're trying to get to is not just our right thing. We're trying to choose maybe the best thing. Because there might actually be different things we could do. And so we're trying to say, what is the best thing that we could do? But certainly you are trying to choose the good thing, the right thing, rather than that little devil on your shoulder. At certain points in our memories we have different images of conscience, even Jiminy Cricket. You have Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket. Let your conscience be your guide is the song that Jiminy Cricket sings. So in that sense you have the idea of conscience as your guide. You have conscience as being inside you. You have conscience as being something intimately connected to the right thing. Okay, if that's the case, let's say now I am someone who totally disagrees with you. And in conscience, I think that I'm right. And in conscience, you think that you are right. There's a problem, because in fact, we reached a stage where we can't both be right, can we? And yet we're both saying, my conscience tells me. That's another thing that actually you hear people saying, my conscience tells me this. So it's as if there's a little me inside telling me what to do, almost. Okay. And so in fact, in history, we've had different ideas of what conscience is, different images actually of what conscience is. If you go back to the ancient Greeks, they didn't have the idea of a little me. They actually, at certain points, they had an idea of a big ulcer. It doesn't sound so pleasant as a little me. They had the idea of pain connected to conscience. Pain. So what we're going to do just now is we're going to look at some of the stages of the history of the idea. But that first stage was the reflecting on what I've done. And for the Greeks, it was, by and large, what I've done wrong. And so the inside of you, there would be pain until such times you've done something to try and resolve it, until you're trying to make peace. Nowadays, though, conscience has almost reached a stage where if I say that I'm right and you say that you're right, and we both have totally different views, we could end up in a situation where conscience itself is starting to be detached from things. And that's where actually my little handout starts off. Conscience is disconnected from many things nowadays. Almost to the point that the word means nothing, actually. You could say that it means nothing unless you start to put the things together again. So, for example, what is conscience connected to? Truth? Is that handy? Yes? Okay. God? Yes, so we're going to try and look at some of the things that conscience would be connected to. Because if we start to dismantle conscience, nowadays we have the idea of the dignity of conscience. And so you hear that in political circles, you hear that in major statements, that someone's conscience should not be violated. You hear that kind of description, that the dignity of their conscience should be respected. Now that's true. That's true. Someone who says something, they say, in all conscience, I believe this. Okay? Fine. But if it's the case that it's detached from many things, you could end up in a situation where, in fact, what they say is, I want this, and I'm really describing it as my conscience saying this. Okay? So it becomes actually, in the words of Pope Benedict, an excuse mechanism. Okay? So really, we use it to excuse ourselves. We use it just to justify what we want, rather than actually working out whether, as Simon was saying, whether it's the right thing. So we end up now, as we see in the start of that paper there, understanding conscience in subjectivist terms has become commonplace in modern culture. Subjectivist means that it's purely to the person, so it's individual. Okay, so conscience is connected to me, and it's separated from you. But in fact, the word cum scientia, conscience, is knowledge with, and part of that idea is actually knowing together. So you can't actually separate yourself. Okay. So it says here, the dignity of conscience is rightly promoted, but in a manner which is detached from its proper context and emptied of real meaning. Detached from other elements that bestow and qualify its dignity, conscience is therefore seen by many as the ultimate decision maker, one that cannot be challenged. Equally, it's also used as a justification for personal preference. Clearly, seeing conscience in absolute terms, we are left in a situation where the individual conscience is defended, but the question of moral truth is left to the side, made relative by competing arbitrary opinion. This understanding of conscience, however, is far from the notion presented in history, particularly in the context of Catholic moral theology. Okay, so we now have a situation where we're using the word a lot in society, but in fact most of its connections have been dismantled. And so really what we need to do in this talk is to look at some of its history and see what the connections are, so that we can actually recognize the dignity and also the failings of conscience at certain points. So to start that, we need, as I said, to go back to ancient Greece. So the term conscience is a Greek one, and it comes from the word synedesis. Okay, synedesis is the Greek word for it, and that's the origin of the term, then translated into Latin, cum scientia, and that's where we then end up with conscientia in Latin and conscience. Okay, so it dates back to 500 BC, and there are certain texts, fragments that are found in Greek writing that uses this term. But the texts are very few and far between, and in fact really for a long period of time the word doesn't appear very often. It means two things at that point. The first one is very straightforward. It's actually just awareness. And so it's knowledge of what's happening around you. So it's physical awareness, recognizing that you're sitting in front of me, terrifying me with a microphone. That's awareness. Okay? And a moral assessment of that is the second description of what conscience is about. So in other words, the first thing is just physical awareness. The second thing is moral awareness. And so the two sit beside each other at first, but then they actually start to split. Okay? And one dies off a little bit. So moral awareness becomes the winner. It's the one that in history is maintained.